This is the Heart of Singing podcast, the place where passionate singers and vocal coaches of many different styles will share their passion about the wonderful art of singing and making a career with their voices. I'm your host, Henry Crescini. Now, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heart of Singing podcast. I am your host, Henry Crescini. I hope you have been enjoying the podcast so far. Remember to follow, subscribe, wherever you are more active, be it Instagram, I'm there, The Heart of Singing altogether, Facebook, The Heart of Singing podcast altogether, also on YouTube on my personal channel. You find all the links here in the video description, Spotify, anchor.fm/The Heart of Singing, and now also posting the videos directly in Instagram. So there's no excuse not to follow the podcast, not to recommend it to your friends. So today, this is episode 5, and I have a very special guest. All my guests are special, and like I said from the very beginning, I am interested in presenting singers from many different styles. And this is the case with my guest today. Her name is Vicious Precious. That's her actual name because he had her name legally changed to that. So Vicious Precious, she's the brain and the sole member of the electro-punk band, don't know how to call it, Pretty Addicted. And I approached her because I like the way she presents herself. It's a very aggressive manner, but very emotional at the same time. And this kind of very aggressive singing is also interesting for me as a listener and as a fellow singer. So I wanted to talk to her, and it was a great chat. Warning, this is the first episode in my podcast where there will be actual swearing. So you have been warned, there will be explicit language. But that's okay. That also goes with her personality very well. So without further ado, I leave you here with my interview with the lovely Vicious Precious of Pretty Addicted. Enjoy. Hello, I'm here with Vicious Precious. Hi, Vicious. Should I
Hello.
call you Vicious or should I call
Vicious,
you
Vish. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Well, thanks for accepting the invitation to come to the Heart of Singing podcast. I'm very glad to have you.
Of course. It's a really cool thing. I was just saying to you that it's nice to be able to talk about my craft instead of just like promoting something for once. Yeah.
Exactly, but a bit of promotion is always welcome,
Oh, of course.
especially considering that you are releasing stuff. By the time we're recording this, you have just released a single called Lone Wolf. And by the
Yeah.
time this episode is out, you will have already released your first, sorry, it's not your first, but a long album called Percent,
Fourth.
right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fourth,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
First of
It
all,
came out on my birthday as well. So happy birthday to me from the past.
happy belated birthday. Although we are in the past,
Yeah.
this will be listened to in the future. It's funny, right?
Yes, it's fine.
Funny, all this with the alternative timelines and so on. I'm into that kind of stuff. So, well, how has Lone Wolf performed so far?
Yeah, I mean, I did actually make a video on this where I uploaded on the band page that it's really nerve-wracking when you put out a single or a video or anything like that, because it takes so much heart and soul and like all of your energy to make it and edit it and make the video for it. And then when you put it out, it's almost just stressful because you want it to do well and you're worried that it won't, or you're worried that people won't see it because of the algorithms and stuff. So it kind of sucks the joy out of it a little bit. But the people that have seen it seem to really like it, and people are saying it's like their favorite Very Addicted song, and that they identify with it because they're all like, they feel like lone wolves themselves. So yeah, I think it's done really well. Yeah, I think the thing is, the best way to get stuff done is to do it yourself. So.
Yep, that's why I'm doing this. It's
exactly.
like I want to do it, and I put the things together that I need to do, and then
exactly. And you've got no one to tell you what to do. You just answer to yourself.
Well, you've been releasing several songs lately, singles
Mm,
with self-made videos.
yeah.
Um, well, I mean, the videos are so well done. I was
Thank you.
positively surprised to read when you posted that you do everything by yourself, and like,
Yeah.
wow, I mean, the whole concept, and then putting it together, filming, editing.
Yeah.
Oh, respect.
Thank you. Yeah, no, people don't realize that Pretty Addicted is me and that I have live musicians, but that they have nothing to do with like the whole process. In the past, I've sort of included other people in the imagery more, but over the years, I thought, well, I do everything, so I should kind of take the credit and put myself in the spotlight, which was a bit nerve-wracking, but I've earned it, I guess. So yeah, and editing's been really fun. I've learned how to edit. I'm still learning. They get better. My lighting is still a bit iffy, but learning everything on your own is both strenuous and enjoyable. And there's a lot of like YouTube watching and trial and error and things like that. But luckily, I'm a really, being an Aries, you'll understand. You're a very
Yes.
visual, passionate person. And yeah, and the reason I put wolves as well in the videos because I wanted to like show the animal themselves because animals are really important to me and they're beautiful. And yeah, and like I did a blue cage video which is from the last album, Magic of a Lunatic, to show what's happening to like sharks and whales and overfishing and things like that. And it's important for me to show animals. I think I'll put more in the future. I just think they're amazing and they're part of my art.
Okay. And releasing singles this way has been a way to tease your audience for the next album, but also a way to keep
Yeah,
you busy, right?
exactly. So basically, the album Soul for Sale was meant to come out in March 2020. But
We
with
know what happens.
COVID, the thing is, it was all ready to go, and I had a tour set up, and I was playing 2 shows in Germany in April, and it all fucking went tits up. I can't swear, right?
I will put a mark on the explicit language. You will be
You'll
the
have to
first
put
guest
you
to
have to put
swear.
a lot.
The first
Um,
swearing on my podcast comes from Vicious Precious.
oh,
Awesome.
sorry, I can't help it. I swear a lot.
That's
But you'll have to bleep all my songs as well. Okay. So yeah, no, I was meant to come out March last year, but with COVID like canceling the tour, I didn't want to release an album and then there not be a tour because then it would just be like an album that goes into the abyss. But with it seeming like no live gigs are going to happen anytime soon, I was like, I'm just going to release it, and I'm going to release it on my birthday as a treat to myself. And in the meantime, I'll make it up to people by giving them content. So making videos and keeping them interested, keep giving them something. I think a song can be given new life when you put a video to it and it shows like what the song's about maybe, and shows like my interest in creativity and visual elements and aesthetic and things like that. I like it when my favorite artists make a video for my favorite songs, because then it just it brings your emotions of it into a visual. So yeah, and to keep myself busy as well. COVID has taken a toll on my mental health, and if I just sit back and wait for tour, I
yeah.
can't do that. I can't do
I think you're not the only one. I think many people cope differently with this whole
that.
thing, but artists especially. I mean, I have a day job, and in a
Mm-hmm.
way, fortunate that I get a fixed income every month,
Yeah,
but it's not the same for everybody. And
no.
I mean, we'll see where it goes. And now you are releasing an actual physical CD. I saw.
Yes, hang
Um,
on, it's here. It's
oh
here.
yeah, sure. For those watching on YouTube, you can actually see it. She's holding it in her hands. Cool.
Hold it in my hand after all this time.
Yeah. And what is it about the physical format that many people like? I mean, I admit I am a musical collector, but lately I've been
Right,
gravitating more towards digital music because of
right.
convenience, because of space, because of objects piling
Yeah,
up. But you have been serving both the market for
yeah,
digital music and the market for physical
yeah.
for an actual product, right? Uh,
Yeah.
what is your preference actually?
I think, well, if I start with why I do them, at gigs, people like to take something home with them, physical. So I do sell the most amount of CDs at shows because people are like, oh, I'll grab the music. And even if they listen then online, they showed the respect to you by getting it for the
Yeah.
physical thing. So not being at gigs, you don't sell as many physical CDs at the moment. But I think people like to take that souvenir of something they like. It's like to see, and the artwork inside. My friend did amazing photography, and on the inside of the album cover is this photo that he took to represent this image,
Yeah.
which I think is quite nice. And there's lyrics in there as well that you don't get on digital. Which for me, the words, so to go back to your question about what I prefer, I like physical because I like to see the lyrics and I like to see the photos. And I often get words wrong when I just listen by ear to someone
Oh,
else's
yeah.
music. So I like to see, plus I like to see the bit where you thank people, and I did a campaign to raise funds for this album, and a few people bought the perk that said, have your name featured. So there's people's names in here, and I think they'll like that. So yeah, I like to hold things in my hand for sure.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, you mentioned the visuals, and I think the concept of Pretty Addicted is quite visual. I mean, we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about the music, of course, but we cannot.
My pig boy, my pig.
Yeah, featured in your video, Piggies, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your visual concept. What was the inspiration? Because the music speaks for itself. The lyrics are quite direct, I think. But then
Mm-hmm.
there's the whole visuals. So what was
Yeah.
your inspiration for this kind of visuals? How did you find your persona, and
Right.
the things that you do with the videos and the imagery?
Mm-hmm. Well, people are going to hate one part of my answer because of everything that's going on right now. But Marilyn Manson was a big part of who I am. So
Mhm.
if we take out his personal life for a second, like
Yeah.
um, when I grew up, he was the weirdest, coolest, most aesthetic thing I ever saw. And that was already in me, but he kind of brought it out. And the fact that he didn't look conventionally attractive, that was really important to me. And I've always liked to look kind of weird and not like, oh, she's pretty. Ugh, I like to think that she's odd, she's weird, she's interesting, she's like, got something going that nobody else has. And he was a big part of that. I really like movies as well. So I get ideas from movies like cool, like Quentin Tarantino style movies, or old like Labyrinth and things like that. Really aesthetically beautiful imagery. I love clowns. I absolutely love clowns. So anything with clowns. I know some people hate it. I've had people leave my shows because I was dressed as a clown. But
There is a medical term or a psychological term for the.
Colorophobia.
What is it?
Colorophobia, for the fear of clowns. Colorophobia.
Okay.
Caul. Yeah, but I'm the opposite. And just so everyone knows, there's only one Pennywise. Tim Curry is the only Pennywise. Okay, the new one is not allowed. So yeah, and just everything really cartoonish. I like everything like a big Disney, fucked up Disney. Sorry, swearing.
Say
Fucked up,
what you will. Say what you will.
like fucked up Disney. And strangely, like I really like kids. I think they're really cool and fascinating. So my kind of dream is to play really offensive songs at a kid's birthday party. I know that's kind of weird, but that's kind of what I'm going for. The child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the film. He had that big hat, and he had like these fabulous drapes and everything, like that kind of creepy, cool. Yeah, anything like that.
Okay. So
Sorry,
that
I talk so much. You just set me
you
off over there with questions.
yeah, I'm all for it. You can talk as much as you want as long as you have the time. I have time,
Sure.
so it's fine.
I
Uh,
have whiskey, it's fine.
okay, I have water here.
Well, we can clink water and Jack clink.
Yours.
Well, not yet, but
We can talk about we can talk later about alcohol and the voice, but but
oh
not
yeah.
yet.
Don't listen to me, kids.
Well, Okay, that's the visuals. And I
Yeah.
was saying your music is very direct, and your
Hmm.
lyrics, like there, you are the kind of artist who actually wears her heart on her sleeve. So to say
Yeah.
this
100%.
cliche saying, but it's true. Like
Hmm.
what you see is what you get. You sing about the stuff that bothers you, and about whatever comes to your mind, and you do it the way you want to.
Yep.
What has inspired this kind of lyrical content?
My life, like I'm like that in real life. With if you ask any of my friends, and they'll say, "Yeah, what you see is what you get." My friend recently described me as like fiercely loyal and almost uncomfortably passionate. I'm always the person in a room that says what everyone's thinking, but I say it out loud, and you can tell that other people, they want to say it, but they can't say it. They don't want to be have anyone with their eyes on them. So I'll just fucking say it. Like if it's true, especially when it comes to things that I consider injustice or things that are wrong, and people say, "Oh, we shouldn't say anything." Well, why not? I just think you should absolutely say what's, and that's an Aries thing as well. It's also like a Mediterranean thing because I'm half my family's from Gibraltar, and my granny is very fiery. She passed it down to me, I think. But there's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of people that put everything under the rug, and they want to appear a certain way online, like pretty or cool or famous or like that. And I just think, well, you're not better than me, and I'm not better than you. So I don't know, being real is the most important thing to me, like in the world, above all else. Just be yourself, and you don't have to like me. I don't have to like you, but if you're honest with me and I'm honest with you, then at least there's an even playing field and we're both getting what we really are. Yeah, I can't stand fakery. I call it out. It makes me really uncomfortable. So I just say exactly what I think. My dad always said to me, he's scared to upset me in case he ends up in a song. But
Okay.
call me
Well,
the Taylor Swift of goths.
well, you have your son, this song, mother, no?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I don't know if you want to go into that,
Sure.
but
Yeah, that's about mine. Yeah. I
about your
mean,
mother.
yeah, she's we're very estranged. We haven't spoken in a very long time. She's a born again Christian. Dare I say anything more? And I grew up with this whole church stuff, and that's why I talk a lot about sort of religious topics in my songs and have a lot of religious themes, because I grew up with that stuff.
Mhm.
And not just to be cool. I know some like kids do the whole anti-God thing to be cool, but it's really like a thing that I lived. Um, and she thinks I'm going to hell. That's why I had that little bit at the beginning. She told me I'm going to hell, and everything is wrong. She's very like homophobic, and everything that I am, she is not, and everything she is, I am not. Which is the complete opposite. I don't know how I came out of her, but she's very ashamed of me, and she thinks what I'm doing is awful. So fuck it, I'll get it out. I'll just write songs about you. Thanks for the material.
And then the delivery of your lyrics is this very, very aggressive kind of singing, between singing and speaking, singing. I find it
Yeah.
very interesting. And I think we will talk about technique in a moment.
Hmm.
And then you can tell us how you do that and how you keep
Right.
it. But maybe let's go a little bit back
Hmm.
to, because you have mentioned your parents, both of them.
Hmm.
And how did it start? When did you realize you wanted to sing, and how was it growing up? Did you get any support from them? How was it?
Well, I actually went to performing arts school when I was 2 until I was 16. So I've always been singing. However, when I started doing this singing now, I threw pretty much all of my training out of the window, because they make you sing very perfectly. And I like it when a person's got like their natural style rather than trying to sound like X Factor or perfect. But I did get a lot from it. I got like how to breathe and things like that, and my confidence. I've always been on stage even when I was a kid, and it allowed me to be confident. Like I never get stage fright because I'm so used to it. I get anxious afterwards because I'm
Yeah,
worried if I did a good job. But when I can't wait to get out there. It's just you feel like God
I
is
get
just
it.
it's better than sex. It's better than anything, better than love. That is like the only moment in life when I'm never insecure, not confident. I don't care if people like me. I'm going to do the same if there's 4 people there or 100,000 people there. Um, but yeah, no, actually, they were both very supportive when I was growing up. It was only when, I mean, my mum and me never really got on, but she supported my creative side somewhat. It was only when she sort of found God that everything went fucked up when I was like 12. But my dad is like my biggest fan, bless him. He thinks I'm the coolest. And he does my merch. So when people see him at gigs, they call him Daddy Addicted, and he's at his merch post and he sells my merch, and he showed me the Prodigy when I was 6
Yeah,
and I fell in love with them.
it shows in
And
your music, right? It's an influence,
yeah,
a
like
big
I've
influence.
got my Prodigy tattoo
Oh,
there.
amazing.
um
I admit I came late to the Prodigy because I was the metalhead, and
right.
you know, oh, metal and electronics. Nowadays, I think whatever, dude. Right now, I'm more into electronic music, but I also play acoustic music. So whatever
Of
comes.
course. Why does it have to be one thing? Like metal elitist. The weird thing is, every metalhead that I know loves the Prodigy and loves electronic music, because really, when you come down to it, music is music, and as long as it's
Right.
good, I don't really care what genre it is. Like I still don't even know what my genre is. Like I struggle to, when people say what is it, I don't really know. I'm like, well,
Loopy
it's music.
punk, you said,
Yeah,
right?
like I put dance punk because it's better marketable, but I really don't know. There's a lot of Prodigy in there. Um, I hope I don't just rip them off. But there's a lot of Prodigy in there. I do think that my voice gives it a bit more of that, metally edge. So that's why I can never really say what I am. But yeah, my dad. Going back to my singing, I've always been doing it, and my dad's like super fucking proud. And actually, a funny story. My first ever show, I wanted to like make a really, really big show, because I was like, well, this is my moment. I'm going to remember this forever. Like, I need to stand out. So my friend, she was in a underwear and a clown mask, and I had a strap on. This is so not child friendly. Nobody watched this. I had a strap on, and I pretended to, with her.
Yeah.
And my dad was like at the front row. He was like, "Oh my
Well,
god!"
but he knows. I mean, it might be difficult for a father. I don't have children. I don't know, but he knows you're an artist, right?
Yeah, he
You're
says he
performing.
doesn't see it like that. I've had friends of mine, male and female, be pretty naked on stage, and he says he doesn't see it. He just sees it as art.
Performance.
Yeah, and after the show, he was like, "I loved it. I'm not going to mention some bits, but I loved it."
So I take it they're not together anymore. Your parents, right?
She lives in America with an American, and they've been over there a long time. So I got to see all the American churches when I was young as well, which is interesting. Um, yeah, she's not supportive at all. The
Okay.
last time I saw her, actually, I didn't see her for like nearly a decade, and then it was my granny's birthday, so we all came together and tried to be neutral or whatever. And she was so nasty that on the journey back, I wrote "mother" on the plane. So I was like, I had it in my head because I quoted her own Bible at her. Take the speck out of your own eye. Don't touch mine. And I wrote that song on the way home, because that's like a good therapy of how to get stuff out. Just write songs. Anyone who's suffering does anything creative in that moment when you feel the worst. That's when you should write. That's when you
Absolutely.
should sing. That's when you should paint, because that raw feeling, that's real. That's not constructed. Like, how should I write a song today? No, that's like raw emotion, and that's going to be your best stuff.
That's like the actual catharsis taking place
Mm,
right there.
exactly.
So you were singing. a lot while growing up, and you mentioned you had some training before you started with the aggressive
Yeah.
stuff. What kind of training did you get?
So there was a lot of like how to say words and whether you should say it in an American accent or an English accent, stuff you don't really think about. We were told to sing in an American accent because it does sound, again, you know, like when you think of Robert Smith from The Cure, he sings in an English accent. It sounds like very different, you know, but they wanted you to be quite like generic, I guess, like
Yeah,
pop star or something. So like instead of saying like over here, you go over here, you know, like the way,
it does
yes,
sound American. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And they said that that was the way to make it like the most harmonious, I guess. There was a lot of like exercises and breathing, which are still really important. The most important thing above all else is to sing from your stomach, not from your chest or your
Yeah.
throat. You can damage your voice quite a lot if you sing from here. Plus, you don't have nearly as much power. If you breathe in right before a big note and it comes from your stomach, it's almost like you're not even doing it. It's coming from like another place, like Ariel in Little Mermaid. It's coming from, you know, and that's, you can really hurt your voice if you don't do those basic things. So they're the kind of things I kept with me. But when I went to singing in bands, like I've been in a couple before this one,
Mhm.
I threw it out the window in terms of the sound that came out because they wanted you to sound very generic. And I won't name names because I won't criticize anyone, but there's some, you know, rock music artists that you listen to and you're like, it's okay, it's pleasant, but it sounds like everybody else. And I
Yeah.
didn't want that. I wanted to see what would come out of me quite naturally. And I think it's quite distinctive, the voice I have. It's like, I think you know it's me. Like with some artists you hear and you're like, oh, I can't remember the name of that person. But then some you hear and you're like, I know who that is. I think I've got quite a different voice. So I just went with it. And I was like, well, how can I just improve on this rather than what they told me to do?
Okay. And do you have like a singing routine? Like, do you warm up your voice before shows, and when you're touring? How do
Yeah.
you keep it?
No one follow the following advice, but there's a lot of whiskey involved.
Please don't follow it. I think every vocal coach will say, "Oh no."
I know, no, not for tours and things like that. One-off shows. I do, of course, use my voice by practicing singing and just basic vocal exercises. But I do drink before I go on stage
Hmm.
because it's more fun. So that's not because it's good advice. It's just fun. When it's tour, it's a bit different. You have to pace yourself. I worked out that 2 drinks before stage and 2 drinks on stage is the good amount. I've done shows where there's more and I've done shows where there's less, both with catastrophic results. But I did do a few shows sober, but they were just boring. They like I did the same job. I just thought, I like the party element, you know. So don't follow any of this advice.
Okay. But when you started singing with bands, you had your former training. You could sing, let's say, clean vocals,
Yeah, yeah,
and then you found the grit, right? And you
yeah.
you added the grit to your voice. How did you find it, and how did you do it, and how did you find your current voice?
Right. Well, to go this backwards, I think I'm much better today than I've ever been. And a lot of that is down to, with the coronavirus, I've practiced 100,000 times more than I ever have. I bought proper microphone, I bought proper sound system, and I just sing all the time. And what I do is I sing songs that aren't my own in ranges that I don't think I can do until I can get them. So then you train your voice to do different things. So the grit thing, I think, comes naturally. That is where that does come naturally. And you can't really teach that. You can't really teach how it's going to sound, but you can teach technique.
Yeah.
So not everyone can, also this is really important, not everyone can sing every song, because I think the misconception is like when a singer puts online, oh, what cover would you like me to sing, and people just name songs. what if it's not in my octave? What if I can't, reach that low? You think about it with male and female voices as well. Not always, because I don't actually think there's such thing as a female voice. But when you're talking about men and women biologically, we usually have to go an octave higher, because they're, if you've, and I don't play by notes, I play by ear, but sing by ear. But if a guy's doing it this way, you're like, yeah, I could copy it, but you find that you've either got to go one higher or one lower, and often the song is too low or it's too high, and it changes the sound of the song a bit too much. So you can't sing every song, but just basically practice. The first album I did, I put only a bit of effects on my voice, because I don't like effects on voice, but some, and now I don't put any. And that's because I'm much more confident than I was for All Stems from Childhood. If I was to cover those songs now, when I play them live, I sing them very differently than I did on that CD, because I wasn't as confident. So that's what it's just time, practice, confidence, believing you can do it. There's also a thing about when you're going to get a big note, you've either got to go for it 100% or bail out right before, because if you bail out as you're starting, it's going to crack. But if you bail out like a second before, you can do something else. But when you do go for it, and if you fuck up, so what? Do it again. Go back until you do it again, And one thing I'll say about the clean singing, it's actually harder to clean sing than it is to scream, I find, because if you kind of fuck up a scream, you can get away with it. If you screw up a clean note, painful. If someone goes like, it's flat, you're like, nah. Whereas if it's a scream, you can kind of just, whatever, it's meant to be dirty anyway, who cares, So I would say that especially live clean singing, and when you're running around and you're out of breath on stage a bit because you're not just standing there, then it's a lot harder, I think.
Has there been a place for clean singing in Pretty Addicted?
Yeah, I've done some clean singing in Pretty Addicted. On my last album, I did a whole song of clean singing. Yeah, I think on every album I do one that's fully clean. I like it a lot. It's just obviously, like you said, my stuff's aggressive, and you have to actually write like a whole song. Like I wrote a song called Monster Inside the House, and Holding Hands with the Shadow Man album, and that's you're gonna have to go back and do your Pretty Addicted listening now.
I've heard a lot, but not every album in full, I admit it.
To be fair, I don't really put the clean ones as singles, because you have to put the heaviest ones out as singles. And in Soul for Sale, I sing a little bit in the middle, but I really enjoy it. I like singing Elvis, and I like singing like Lana Del Rey and things like that on my own. I do upload a lot of covers on like my Facebook and Instagram, just me singing. But like I say, I've gotten so much better, and I've been uploading Disney covers as well. So
awesome.
I did Friend Like Me, which was so fun, and Part of Your World, which was fun. And check out my cover of Poor Unfortunate Souls by Ursula on Bandcamp, because that was fun.
Okay, I'll put the link to your YouTube channel in the show notes in the video description.
And Bandcamp as well, because Bandcamp's got
Bandcamp, of course.
Yeah.
So people can listen to your stuff there and buy it if they want to buy it digital. Otherwise, your website.
I'll give you all the links, and you can put all the stuff. But I massively appreciate anyone who does. Yeah, I massively appreciate anyone who does actually buy. I think the rule is, for me, if you listen to a song more than 3 times, you should buy it, because you obviously value it enough to listen on repeat. And absolutely. It's like less than £1 English, and come on.
Yeah, that's true. And the whole work that is behind every song.
Yeah.
Many people cannot imagine what it means.
I mean, I write everything, but I have a guy who mixes it, and I have a guy who masters it, and I have to pay for the studio time. So the amount of stuff the amount of money that goes into one song, and then people don't value it enough to pay less than £1 is hurtful. I get that Spotify exists and people are having everything, and you can't pay for everything. But I always say, like, pick your 5 favorite artists and buy their stuff, because it will cost you £5 a month for 5 singles.
support it. If you like it, support it.
Exactly.
Um, let's talk about the songwriting process. And
Mm.
you told about the song Mother, that like how you wrote
Mm.
the lyrics on the playing back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was an example of you writing the lyrics first. Is it always like that?
No, I never write the lyrics first. That was just because I was angry. Yeah. No, I usually write the music first. It's hard for me to write the lyrics first because you don't know what the melody is gonna be. And it's a lot harder to write music for vocal melody than it is the other way around, because you have to, I don't know, warp things a little bit. It doesn't really make much sense. So usually I come up with the bass lines and the melodies first, because if you come up with the bass lines and the melodies, then everything else sort of fits
Falls
together.
into place, yes.
Yeah, because they're the, integral part of every sort of section. um and it usually comes with some, I use Omnisphere as well for many odd dark noises, and I find weird sounds. So Soul for Sale, I was in the studio with AB that helps me do stuff, and there were guys drilling outside of his studio. And even though the studio is soundproof, every time I went outside, I could hear it. And I recorded that on my phone that goes like that. And right at the beginning of Soul for Sale, where you hear that's the drill. So
Oh,
I do lots of stuff like that. I call them odd noises. And I like my cat meowing is the main thing in Mania. And things like that. So I like to find weird noises that nobody else would do, and then it's like original to me, and you can't really copy it.
okay. So you write the melodies first.
Yeah,
So
and the bass lines, yeah.
and the bass lines is like the basis, of course.
Mm.
Did you take like piano lessons or
No, I write completely by ear. I do have my piano keyboard there.
yeah?
Yeah, I write completely by ear. I know some people say that that's not a real musician, but I just always have, and I don't really care. As long as it comes out fine. It's the
It
same as my
sounds
singing.
like music. That's the important.
Exactly. Bowie couldn't write music, so there you go. Yeah, no, I just screw around with the keyboard until I find a note that I like, and I go from there. I really love trance music, so a lot of my like melodies and synth sounds come from those emotional trance songs that just make you just like, because I love the juxtaposition between really emotional synths and then really dark demonic bass, and that's kind of the premise for all my stuff. It's like really euphoric and really dark and mixed it together, because they both create, I guess I've just described my bipolar. but yeah, I like anything like emotional, and the opposite ends of stuff coming together in a massive chasm, I guess. And then I'll add like loads of weird samples and sounds and stuff. If I haven't, by the end of it, I'm just like, it's missing something. I need an animal sound. I need this sound. Lone Wolf had the wolf howl. If you go into like royalty-free sites, you can get so many sounds. So yeah, I just like adding things that other people wouldn't necessarily do. And AB that I'm in the studio with, he's there to help me engineer if I need. He never really knows what I'm doing. So he just leaves me to it, and he's like, if you need any help, let me know, because it just sounds crazy and ridiculous. I'm like, that's me, I'm just crazy and ridiculous. And then it all comes together. And I like putting notes together that you wouldn't think should go together. And he says like, things always just about work. And I'm like, well, that's good. It puts people on their toes. It's not just like, and with lyrics, my biggest pet peeve is when people rhyme obvious words together. So when you put where and there,
Yeah.
can you have thought of anything else? Oh, fuck. And there's like, I told my friend this the other day, there's a theme of lyrics in the new metal days. Every band, I stopped myself. Every band says, break you down at some point. I was listening to like, just, you break me down or I'll break you down.
Guilty.
Like,
I was just until a few months I was singing with the band and we had a song called Breakdown.
of course.
There you have
It's
it.
like a rite of passage.
So
Everyone's called.
there you have it. The final part of the song was me singing my lungs out to break down, break down. There you have it. You're right.
Every band is like, "You'll never break me down," and it's like, ugh, can't you think of anything else? And so sometimes if I'm writing something and it sounds a bit obvious, I'll go back and change it because it's like, okay, you said that. Well, make it sound a bit more interesting. So I got a bit of that with lyrics. When you hear something, you're like, oh, that's a beautiful line. That was going to stick with you more. And I really like words. I've got like a book of words that I really like. So you just write like disenchanted, like dismayed, and just write like a whole big book of words that are interesting. And then you think like, how can I put them into the sentence I'm saying, you know?
Okay. Well, you talked about this whole process about how you do most by yourself, but there is a loyal fan base. That's what I have seen in your
Yeah.
social networks. So,
Yeah.
how is the communication with them?
The Crackhead Army. I love them. Um they're amazing. Like I actually couldn't do this without them. So even though like I am like a lone wolf, I would say I've got this wolf pack as well. And I think you can be both things. But I think they latch on. The thing that they say is that they latch on to the fact that I'm talking about really real stuff and like mental health, and I'm not acting like I'm better than them. And we have a group on Facebook that we can talk more one-on-one, because sometimes with Facebook or Instagram or something like that, you're talking at people. But our group is Pretty Addicted Crackheads. Anyone who wants to join, I talk to them one-on-one. So I'll upload videos of me just like hanging out or with my cat or writing stuff, and they can upload things there, and we can all talk. I think treating people like people, you know, it goes back to what I said about the fakery. I don't think I'm better than anyone. Just because you like my music doesn't make me better than you. And I remember being really small. I had no friends when I was a kid, and just writing songs. I'm crying and listening to my favorite artists and thinking that they got, like, they were saying what I felt, like they got it and they put it into words, and it just made me feel like someone else got it. And the fact that I can do that for anybody, no matter how few, is amazing. And it's like the circle of life. You know, I've used all this stuff from my life and my trauma, and it's helped someone else, and they can do the same for someone else. And you know, keep doing that, because there's no point just sitting with the self-indulgent feeling of, oh, I'm depressed. Well, what are you going to do about it? You know, you can give it to someone else, and you can both have therapy with that, and you can help someone else, so you win twice. So yeah, I just think treating people like people is the most important thing. Just because they're fans doesn't put me above them. I think that a lot of people want to act like they're amazing online, and that's not the truth. Sometimes we're shit.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Speaking of being online, do you have the Pretty Addicted YouTube channel? Do you have your social networks? But
Yeah.
you also have a personal YouTube channel where you touch upon this kind of topics. You want to talk more
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, sure. It's a small channel. I didn't think anyone would care, to be honest. I just needed a place where I could talk about my mental health, because I've been on a list for many years with the doctors to get help, and I'm still on the list and I'm still getting no help. And I was annoying my dad and my boyfriend and my friends with all this stuff, I'm sure. So I wanted to just make a channel where I could talk about mental health freely, about my own experiences, because you should never speak for somebody else. But some people commented saying that, you know, I've said what they couldn't say, and that it helped them in a way, and that they don't feel so alone. So I don't upload like on a specific time. I just upload it whenever I'm like making it. I uploaded one the other day called Depression. I know it'll be super old now, but so I've made like one on my health anxiety, one on depression, one on I will do one on my bipolar. I just think mental health is kind of stigmatized, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't talk about it, or she's just crazy, or you should just be on medication. There's so many other ways to get this normalized, where it's just another subject, and it's just something else. It's just like, you know, being gay. Oh, she's a human, but she's also gay, for example. She's just a human, but she's also got this problem. It's just like another part of you, but it's not this hidden away part. And there still is a lot of stigma, you know, in my own family. I've got people that think it's not a real thing. I've got people that think it just means I should be locked up away in a funny farm, whatever. There's a lot of misconception about what it is, and not everyone needs to be doped up on meds, and not everyone needs to be in a hospital. And sometimes it's just minor, and it could be dealt with some therapy. But it's really hard to get therapy on the NHS. I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but it's really hard to get help here without paying for it, which not everybody has. I know I don't have the means to pay for how much therapy I actually need. So talking about it with people openly could be the answer here, you know, just to get through that day, because everything is like a day. You know, my granny always says, tomorrow's another day, you know, so you've only got today. So what are you going to do with this day? I could be sad and sit here and cry for 6 hours, which I've done many times, or I could do something productive, creative. I could call someone. I could talk about it in a video. There's ways to not fight, to fight it. But there's also times where it's okay to just sit there and cry for 6 hours, and people should know that. And it's okay if you waste today just feeling sad. That's allowed, you know, and you should be allowed to do that and not feel like you're being lazy or non-productive or anything like that. And it goes back to what you said about me just saying the truth. Like I'm always like that. And I do think that mental health is kind of glamorized. I said this in my depression video. People are like, oh, isn't it beautifully painful? And it's not. It's horrible. You know, it's like, it's not an aesthetic. It's not a cool label to give yourself. It's really hard to live with. You know, you don't look great on the days you're depressed. You can't wash, you can't get out of bed, you don't change your clothes, you don't brush your hair. You know, it's not glamorous at all. And if we talk about it how it actually is, maybe people can get help.
Yep. And I think people shouldn't be ashamed of asking for help.
No,
And I think one of the biggest problems in our society is that we carry a lot of luggage, but we don't talk about it because it's frowned upon, because because you have to be strong, you have to show this character, and it has hurt society. Actually, there are many people carrying their frustrations, and then they explode in the wrong way, maybe.
Well, if you link it back to music as well, like look how many musicians have taken their own lives in the last few years, you know, and all men, mostly men, because, you know, men's mental health is not spoken about because you have to be men and you can't.
You have to be strong, right? I
you
was raised as that
money. My dad's only recently admitted that he needs help, and he's 56. And it took, you know, he was from an Irish family. They were very much like men are men. You're builders. You don't cry. But yeah, even if you look at someone like Keith Flint from The Prodigy, or Chester Bennington, or Chris Cornell, like they seemed like they had it all. You look at a person like that, you know, you saw the comments like how ungrateful, they had this amazing life. They weren't having an amazing life in here.
You don't know what's going on in their life.
No, you know, and quite famously, you know, Chester's wife shared a video of him the day before smiling. So he said, this is what mental health looks like. You can look on the outside completely different than you are in here. You know, he was, I mean, how dark in a place you have to be to do what he did. So we need to not get to that point. We need to get to a point where up to a certain point, you're like, I need help. If you go any further down that road, something bad's going to happen. So let's not get to that point. Let's get some help and be kind to yourself. You know, especially being an artist, I struggle. I'm being a woman. I struggle with imagery online, you know, like being the right weight and being the right appearance and how many likes you have. You know, we're in a very validatable world. I know that's not a word, but you know what I mean? It's like you need to be validated all the time. I'm guilty of it, you know, thinking like, oh, they're doing better than me, you know, they look better than me. But you have to just take a breath. Yeah, you have to just take a breath and go, well, am I doing better than I was a year ago? Because that's the goal. You're your own competition. You're not anybody else's competition. As long as you're doing better for yourself than you were a year ago. And if you're not, make sure that next year you're better than you were right now. Because that's the only comparison you should be doing. And that's the only way to get through. You know, life is really hard, and we're all brown bread at the end of the day, you know, all 6 feet under. You're not going to take any of this with you. So what are you going to do with the time that you do have?
Well, thanks a lot.
Sorry to be so depressing.
No, on the contrary. I think it's a great way to wrap this up with these words that you said, that the important thing is that are you better today than you were yesterday, or than you were a month ago, a year ago, and so on, and being your own competition. I think that's a great wrap up.
Yeah, no, I always do that with myself in like Christmas when I make my like end of year video. I think it's pretty addicted doing better than it was a year ago, because I get worried, you know, like other people have more views than you, more likes than you. They seem like they're doing better, but they're probably having the same conversation with themselves. Someone else is doing better than me. So if you take other people out of it and you just look at yourself and go, okay, well, what have I done this year? So I've released this many singles, I've released this many videos, I've done this much stuff, I've worked on myself. Okay, well, I'm doing pretty well, actually. So, and it just changes your view entirely. Instead of going, they've got 10,000 views and I've only got 1,000. That sucks. And then the other thing to remind yourself that my dad actually told me when I was getting upset about numbers, I said, oh, only 800 people watched it in 12 hours. And he's like, do you know that's 800 people though?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but it's only 800 people. And he's like, that's 800 people. And it was just the way he worded it. He's like, it's not just 800 people. That is 800. He goes, imagine if all those people were in one room and they heard it together. You know, he's like, you need to change the way you see it. And it made a lot of sense. And it was like, right, okay. So if you take other people out of it and you just look at you, you can start to see yourself doing better.
That's right. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Cheers.
Been here. Cheers. You're still drinking Pepsi, right? Oh, no advertising.
This is coming up next.
But there's something I still wanted to ask you to do.
Sure.
Would you be willing to sing something a cappella?
Yes. Do you have a preference of a song, or do you want me to?
You can choose it. Whatever song of yours you want to sing.
Bones and Whiskey.
Okay. Be my guest.
Okay. I'm going to just take a sip, because this is what singers should not do.
I can show that, right?
Sure. Don't follow this at home, kids. Okay. I made a friend with the void, but it's a physical touch, a human that I crave. Before the night it's destroyed, let's fall in love and get lost in all the misbehave. Though the night was enjoyed, I want you to take my hand and we can find a way out. All I want is a drink and I love her to come around and fuck my brains out. All I want is someone to sit with me and partake in tone down whiskey. Is that all right?
Yeah, thank you. I can put a Zoom reaction here. Oh, it does. I think it doesn't show in the video, but you can see the applause.
I can see it there a little.
Yeah. Well, I thank you very.
I don't know why I picked the healthy one. Of course.
That's fine. Thank you very much for your time, for having been here, for opening up about all this stuff. And people listening or watching should check out your stuff. Pretty Addicted. Mm-hmm. All the links are here in the show notes or in the video description, and hope to see you live sometime.
Yay! And just hold on, guys. Just listen to music. Music saves. Don't worry about when they're coming back. Just listen in the meantime.
That's right.
Listen to music. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Good luck with all the interviews. This is a cool podcast.
See you.
Have a nice day. Bye.
So that was it. That was my interview with Vicious Precious of Pretty Addicted. I hope you liked it. I hope you will check out her band in case you haven't done that so far. Her new album Soul for Sale is out now. It's really great, and enjoy. She's really a do-it-yourself musician all the way. So that's the kind of musicians, of course, support every musician, but that's the kind of musicians we really need to support at the current time. We don't have a major support from labels or whatever. So please go and check her out. You will find all the links to her sites here in the video description or in the show notes. So I hope you will keep on listening to the podcast, and you will be looking forward to my next guest. Until then, have a great time and remember to always sing your heart out. Bye.